Hello and welcome to another video of Google Firebase. In this video, we are going to do CRUD operations via the APIs. So CRUD means create, read, update, and delete database operations on Firebase using the REST APIs and some other commands. Now, step number one, in the previous set of videos, we have already created a Firebase account. So you need to go and create a Firebase account. In the Firebase console, this is console.firebase.com, you would go to the project overview, and from the project overview, you are going to click on the settings, come to service accounts, and generate new private key. As soon as you generate a new private key, you click on generate key, there will be a JSON file that will be downloaded. That's a private authentication to your Firebase account. This is what you will do. Next, you will go to collab.google.com. This is Collab notebook. This is Python notebook, which is available in the Google Drive description link, Google video description link below. It's a Google Drive link. So now you're going to copy this. So you're going to say file, save a copy in Drive. And then you are going to follow the steps. Okay. So number one, I'm going to use this file master_group.csv, and I'm going to upload this data into Firebase. That is step number one. Then we will read it, update it, delete it, and other operations. So I'm going to close this and let's focus on this. You're going to run this. These are import statements. Number two, you need to run this to mount your Google Drive as you have done in the previous video. I have already mounted it, but if you click on this icon on the left, you should see your drive and you should have uploaded master_group.csv file, which is again available in the Google Drive description, Google Drive link in the video description section below. Next, you need to update the path. Please update the path over here. Please make this path with ending with a / to the path location of master_group.csv. Next, this statement is creating a credential object, and the credentials is again stored in this file, JSON file, which I just downloaded from the Firebase, which is over here. What you can also do is click on this, say copy path, and paste the path over here. Next, you are going to get the database URL. Please ensure that this database URL is correct. You have to replace this with your URL. So go to your Firebase, click on Realtime Database, and you will have your URL. In front of you, I'm going to delete master_group permanently so that we can get this data. So now in this, you do not have master_group as the collection. Next, I'm going to go back and run this command. You can see that this command is run. Next step, you are reading this master_group.csv file using pandas on this data frame. And then there is a function, Python function, that is defined in order to generate the data in the format which is required for Firebase. So what I'm doing is I'm generating this data. You'll see here in a few minutes. So this data is going to be generated in this format. The ID, the group ID, then ID, group name, and the count of videos. Then next ID 1 and the count of videos, so on and so forth. You have to read through this function a little bit and you will understand the function. And then I am taking the text by calling the function. This function returns a text which is in the JSON format required for Firebase. Next, I am going to, so this is the text. I want to convert it into a JSON file. So what I do is this statement writes the JSON file. So it write to a JSON file. And then this statement reads from the same JSON file. So these two statements are converting the text to the JSON. And next, I'm using DB, which is called from here. So from Firebase_admin, import DB. So db.reference learn/master_group. This is the collection in which the data will be populated. And then I'm using this reference dot set the file contents of the JSON file. I repeat it one more time. So you have a function which converts the data frame data which you got here into a specific format. The format is something like this. And then you have the function called here returns a text. You use that text and write this into a JSON file. This is needed in order to convert a text format to JSON. There are multiple methods to do it. In the next series of sections, we are going to look at it as well. So run this and you would see that master group is created with this data set. Good enough? So this is how you will use a CSV to write the data on Firebase. Next is we want to read from Firebase. So these are all separate modules. You can try it separately. Here, please note that just for the sake of discussion, we are going to use a URL. This is very important. From now on, you need to focus on URL. We are going to use APIs. So the URL here, you're going to copy it from your Firebase Realtime, this one. And then /learn/master group. So again, this URL /learn/master_group. Like this, .json, because you're going to read it in a JSON format. These are headers, which are just telling the application that it's a JSON type of content. And then you will use request.get. Let me show you in Postman. If you do not know what is Postman, go download Postman. This looks something like this. And I can expand it a little bit and I can paste the same link URL and change the type get and say send. You can see the output over here. So you can do this using Postman as well. Next, request.get the URL and the headers. And finally, I am going to print the response. Response.json, I am saving it as my JSON and converting this into a data frame. So the request.get to this URL is stored in REST, and rest.json is then converted into a data frame. Let's take a look. You can see that this data is coming from Firebase. So this is your read operation, request.get. Next on the list is filtering data. What I want to do is, and this is interesting, I'm going to use in this section master_videos. So I go back to Firebase In the previous sections of this course, we have talked about master underscore videos. And what I want to do is I want to filter wherever ID, the group ID is 1. So I'm going to get these both. Apart from this, everything ID is different. So let's use a REST API to filter data from Firebase. So how I'm going to do? I'm going to get the URL again, the same URL /learn, this time master underscore videos. Please note that we're going to use master underscore videos, not the group. So this URL /learn /master underscore videos. Next, I'm going to use the get method again, and that is why I'm going to use this question mark. Order by, you have to put order by all the time, because order by is not really the SQL order by. You are using this order by to filter on the ID. So whichever column you want to filter the data on, you're going to use this as order by equal to value 1. Please use this URL. Please use this section to look at. You can use equal to, you can use limit, or start with from 1 to 2, you know, different kinds of things which we can use, and you can look this all up on Firebase documentation. Now, before you can run this, there is one more change that you need to make. Because you're going to filter on ID equals 1, what you need to do is you need to set up rules. So go to the Firebase, click on rules, Firebase real-time rules, and then you need to set up rules like this. So the rules is from the learn collection, look at master underscore videos and create dot index on ID. If you want to filter on any other column, you need to add one more dot index on function or statement here. Once you make the change, you publish the changes and then go back to Firebase, and exactly the same. This remains the same. I want to run this. You can look at the data returns back from this were equal to 1. As I told you, these are the only 2 records in my videos which are number 19 and 20, which has ID 1. These 2 records are returned back. But the response.json, when I convert into a data frame, this is not what it should be, because I am getting columns as 19 and 20 because those are 2 records, and then I'm getting index as the columns. This is not what I want. So what I'll do, I'm going to use in this section my json.values, and so I'm not here, I was using the entire my JSON response, but here my json.values will show you the columns in this order in a data frame. Wonderful. Next operation is insert. In the insert operation, I'm going to insert one record in master underscore group. So I go back. In master underscore group, you would see there are only 13 collections, records. I'm going to add one more, 14. So go back to Python notebook. Please note that the URL is giving you everything now. So this is your URL, learn master group. And then I'm going to / master group, and I'm going to say 14.json. Please understand that every ID is different. every ID can be called as that ID 12345.json. I'm adding a new record 14.json, but here 14 does not exist. But therefore, I'm using this. I'm going to show you another methods also for going forward, but this is one of the methods. Again, I'm going to do headers as usual. Next is the data. In the data, I'm going to say count 0. Group is no code app dev, and ID again here 14. This is how my data collection looks like. Your data collection can be totally different. And then because this data is a dictionary type in Python, you are going to use import JSON, json.dumps data, this data, comma indent. Doesn't matter indent for now, use this. In the request, you are going to do request.put. Put is the method like get, post. You have put to the URL. Headers is going to be the same, and data equals this data. Once you run it, you should get an output. Okay, it is running it, and you see output is okay. Go back to your Firebase and you would see a 14th record created. Now you have 14. Next on the list is how do I update the same record? So remember I created 14.json previously. So here you have update a record in Firebase. Again, look at the URL. URL will have 14.json, the record which I need to update. And then in the data section, I just want to update the group. So in this, the group was no code app dev. I want to keep count the same, ID the same, but I am going to update the group Firebase AppGyver as the name. And I'm going to do the same, but this time because I'm updating, I'm going to use request.patch. I'm going to use request.patch, and I'm going to run this. You can see that going back to Firebase, open the 14. Now it says group name is changed to Firebase and AppGyver. Next, I want to delete a record from Firebase. So to delete a record from Firebase, again, I'm going to use the same URL 14.json, and then this time no data, but in the requests, I'm going to use request.delete the URL and the headers, and I click on this. Go back to the Firebase here, you would see the number 14 has vanished. Again, I go back, and then I want to insert more than one record in Firebase. I don't want to use the URL 14.json. So let's see what is the method. So here I'm still continuing to use master underscore group.json. There is no 14, 15 here. In this case, the header remains the same. And this time I'm going to insert two records in the Firebase database. The first record is 14. So you write like this 14 colon the count group ID, and then you have 15, the second record, count group and ID. And then I'm going to use the same concept, data json.dumps, to convert this dictionary into a JSON format. And then I'm going to use patch, request.patch, URL, headers, and data. Everything else remains the same. I run it and I see okay. I go back and you will see number 14 and number 15 records are added. So let's do a quick recap of what we have learned today in this video. So I'm going to scroll all the way up. So the first section is how to write a CSV to Firebase. And I initialized the app using service account. You're going to put your service account details here and the URL of the database, again from the real-time database, master_group. And then I defined a function, use that function db.reference and .set to upload the data. To read from a database, I use the URL, and then request.get is to read from the Firebase. Next, filter. To filter this, again I'm going to use request.get, but in the URL itself, you have to use order by, and with this you have to also ensure that in the rules you have a function this piece written. Next is the insert one record. To insert the record, one of the methods is use this 14.json and say put. So 14.json and put is the method to insert one record in the database. Then to update the record, you will say patch. So I'm updating the group name over here. So 14.json is the URL, data is this, and then request.patch. To delete a record, again 14.json, the record you want to delete, request.delete. And then if you want to insert more than one record, again we are going to use request.patch, which is like an update. Here in the update also we used request.patch. So going down, I'm sorry for the scrolls. So insert more than one record, I'm going to use import directly master group.json, put two records like this, and then use request.patch. And therefore you would see in the data two additional records, 14 and 15. I hope this is useful. Please download or use or make a copy of this Python lab by going File, Save a Copy in Drive. Again, happy learning. Thank you for watching.